Hey YouTube, I'm going to be doing an album review of Mice and Men's new album, Restoring Force. This is my first review, so if you like it, then give it a thumbs up and a comment and subscribe and let me know if you want me to do more. Yeah, I just really wanted to review this album. It's not officially out yet. It's streaming on iTunes First Play, so I'm sure a lot of people have heard it. Some people probably haven't still. But yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised. Like, I liked this album a lot. And it's not that I expected to dislike it, because I like Of Mice and Men. I really like The Flood. I have that album, the deluxe reissue, and I like it a lot. But for some reason, I just wasn't expecting to buy this album. I guess I was expecting to enjoy it, but I wasn't expecting to buy it for whatever reason. And I'm going to see them in February with Bring Me the Horizon, and I found myself hoping that they would be playing mostly songs from The Flood and not any songs from the new album, which is weird because I hadn't even heard it yet. But yeah, for some reason I was just really, I guess, skeptical going in, but this album really surprised me. I liked it a lot. Basically, on first listen, I was really impressed and surprised, and I noticed a few things that are really different from The Flood that I think are good things. Even though I like The Flood, I think it makes this album a lot more accessible. There's way more clean vocals on this album than on The Flood, or I'm not really familiar with their first album, but I'm assuming more clean vocals than on that. They have the new clean vocalist, Aaron Pauley, who I think is really talented, and I'm really glad he's on there because I don't know, I feel like it just adds. So I love Che, don't get me wrong, but I feel like he really adds a lot to the band, and there's a lot more clean singing, and I think it's really good. It really works for them. Okay, so I'm gonna do a track by track, and then I'll get into more general things about the album. So the first track is Public Service Announcement, which is really, really good. It's really heavy, opens up with, basically the classic Of Mice and Men sound. You got Austin screaming all the way through. There's no clean vocals in the song. And it's basically just everyone's asking me questions, it's none of your business, it's my life. And he has a thing in the second verse talking about how he was in jail for 3 days, and, it was an easy price to pay because it was something that he felt defending the weak. But yeah, so if you know that story, that's kind of a cool part of the song, and I enjoyed that. So it's a really awesome track, really got me excited for the rest of the album. Next song is Feels Like Forever. And I like this song a lot too. It starts out with Austin screaming in the verses, but it's a different type of screaming almost. It just sounds really different from The Flood, but I like it a lot. It's more melodic screaming, if that makes sense. But yeah, one thing in general I noticed about this album is that it's a lot easier to understand the screaming. In The Flood, I found myself not liking it as much on the first listen as I did this one. It took me quite a few listens to get into it because I had to kind of look up the lyrics to understand what they were saying and really get the meaning before I really loved the songs. But this one I think is a lot more accessible because it's easier to understand the lyrics, which I think is really good because his screaming is so brutal and sounds great, but it's also more understandable, which I think will make it more accessible to new Of Mice and Men fans, and old ones will love it too. Yeah, and then Aaron does the chorus on this. It's a really catchy chorus, and I mean, yeah, I like this song a lot. No, absolutely nothing wrong with the song. Next one is, next one. Oh, Bones Exposed. Yeah, this is the second single that people generally liked a lot more than You're Not Alone, which I'll get to later. But yeah, this is a really solid song. Screaming in the verses, and then a really good chorus. I mean, good lyrics, catchy song, nothing wrong with it at all. Great song. Keeps it moving really well. And then Would You Still Be There is an interesting one. It starts out with a really catchy chorus that hooks you in right away, with Aaron singing, and then the verses are pretty much all Aaron singing as well. I'm pretty sure this song is completely clean vocal, maybe some underlying screams. But that's really cool because on The Flood, when they did all clean vocal songs, it was the acoustic ones, When You Can't Sleep at Night, My Understandings, obviously. But this is an upbeat, rockin' song, but it's pretty much all clean vocals. So I thought that was a really cool thing for them to do. And I think this is more, if you're not maybe into the metalcore stuff as much, but you really like alternative rock, I feel like people are gonna really like this track. And then Glass Hearts. This might be my favorite on the album. It starts out with this really cool piano dinging kind of sound. It almost sounds like it's a hip hop beat, and then you come in with the drums you would think it's a hip hop song to start out with, or I felt like that anyway. And then you come in with the guitars and just really brutal screams and guitars and everything. Really good meaningful song. like if you listen to the verses, it's really like emotional and some really good stuff. I mean, my interpretation of it is kind of like how it's really hard for him to hear fans talk about like stuff they've gone through and depression and everything like that, and how he's trying to help them but he doesn't know how to do it, and just kind of like how that takes a toll at him. But it's kind of motivational, but it's also like real, you know. It's not just him being like everything's gonna be okay, you know, I love you. It's more like real and down to like, well, it's hard for me to hear this, like I'm not gonna lie. I don't, you know, and I don't know, just have to listen to it. But I think it's a really good song lyrically, musically. The chorus is killer. I love it. Okay, what's next? Another You. This is another one that's like pretty much all clean vocals except for I think the bridge. It's a slower paced one and it's really good. I like the song a lot too. Good lyrics. It's kind of about like basically like you'll never find somebody else like the person that you lost, whether it's like a relationship or a friend, basically the person that you lost, like you're never going to be able to replace them, and just kind of like that feeling. And yeah, this one's really good. I really just love Aaron's vocals. And like a really cool thing about this album is each track is more distinguishable. Like, and they said that's something that they wanted to do was to make each track have its own sound. And I think they really did that. Like, it's easy to tell which track is which when they come on, and they each have their own sound, other as opposed to like The Flood. Some of them kind of run together, and it takes like quite a few listens to be able to tell as soon as the song starts which song is which. And they all have pretty much the same structure, like screaming verses, and then cleans in the chorus, like with the exception of a few. But this one is really varied in terms of like penguin pajamas. In terms of like, you've got singing verses, you've got screaming choruses, and then like all mixed in like that. Yes. Okay, so next is Break Free. This is like the least memorable one to me. I don't know why, it just is. It's kind of like a lot of the other ones. It's got, you know, the screaming verses, and then it's pretty much screaming in the chorus too, but there's some clean vocals. It's a really good song. Like, absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's about like breaking free, breaking away from somebody that's like bringing you down. This whole album is really empowering, but not in like a cheesy way. Like, if you listen to You're Not Alone, you probably think it's gonna be cheesy, which I like that song, but it is kind of cheesy. But the rest of the album really isn't like that. Like, it's empowering and motivating, but it's also like real, and it seems genuine. And the song is like that a lot. Then You Make Me Sick. This is like one of the heaviest songs, pretty much all screaming. I really like this song. It's basically just like, you make me sick, go away. Just a good song to listen to if you're like mad at someone. And there's this crazy scream, like in the bridge, and he goes, you make me sick, and screams sick for, I want to say like 18 seconds. Like, he holds the scream, or at least that was on my count. You can look at the little music bar and see how long it really is if you want. But it's ridiculous and brutal, and anyone who says like his screams aren't as good anymore, like, no, listen to this song, it's crazy. And then Identity Disorder, yet another mostly clean vocal one. This has one of like the strongest choruses to me. It's really, really good. I almost wish there was screaming in the verses just because the chorus is so like powerful. I wish it had been more like punchy rather than just it kind of has more slow-paced verses. But the bridge like kind of builds up to Austin's scream vocals, which is really good. And then You're Not Alone, the song pretty much everyone knows. It's one of my least favorites on the album, to be honest. Like, I think it's a good song, and if you're feeling down, like, it'll certainly like pick you up, and it's kind of one of the big things of My Cement has stood for. So like, I'm glad they included it, and it's certainly like catchy and everything like that. But I mean, it is what it is, and like, if you have only heard this song and you're thinking the album's gonna suck, then don't think that, because the rest of the album is a lot different and better in my opinion. And then the last one is Space Enough to Grow, which kind of seems like a sequel to When You Can't Sleep at Night to me, because it starts out like, what do you see when you close your eyes, staying with the whole like sleeping thing, and it's really like slow pace and kind of like a lullaby. And again, just like a really nice song, really good lyrics. Aaron's vocals are awesome. Like, it's a really good way to end the album. So yeah, overall, I think this is an awesome album. I think everyone should check it out, whether you're a previous of Mice and Man fan, for sure check it out. It's awesome. I mean, I don't want to say, like, right now, because I've only listened to it a few times, like it more than The Flood, but I don't know, I might. And, yeah, I think it's definitely, like, the most accessible thing they've put out, so if you're not a fan, still check it out, because it's really different and awesome, but it still, like, is their sound, you know? So, yeah, definitely everyone check out this album, and like this video, and let me know if you want me to review anything else.